Travel journalist and broadcaster Simon Calder. Simon, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I wonder if we could start with perhaps lessons that could be learned from the experiences, the chaos we've seen over the last couple of days. Wildfires, of course, are unpredictable, but how do you think the authorities have handled themselves?
And that is a really good question, and the one which I hope the Greek government will be looking at really quite closely. I've been talking to various British tourists who actually on Saturday night flew in to Rhodes and were immediately put on coaches that took them to effectively evacuation centres, to the schools in which people have been accommodated, sleeping on the floor. There were even a honeymoon couple who were having to do that on the first night of their honeymoon. Awful scenes, and as you can see at the Rhodes airport, it's been fairly chaotic there. Now, questions will be asked about how prepared the island was and how much warning they gave, whether that was adequate. But meanwhile, it is mostly a story of great courage by the islanders, of help by multinational people, including Turkey. They've been sending helicopters over to try to help with the flames and basically trying to get the tens of thousands of tourists from Western Europe into safe places and then fly them back. And the operation is continuing tonight with just to the UK alone. We have 26 flights going out, carrying a total of perhaps 4,000 people. So many people delighted to be leaving, but it does raise questions about what happens next to tourism in Rhodes.
Well, yes, I'll come to that in a moment. I wanted to ask you a bit more about the information that's been available from Greek authorities and indeed from airlines. I mean, you rely on that just as much as tourists and holidaymakers, although we've had so many conflicting reports over the last couple of days about the accurate information. The Greek tourism minister, for example, was playing it down, saying most of Rhodes was absolutely fine and people should continue their flights there, whereas the mayor, the deputy mayor of the island, said the blazes were out of control.
Well, yes, and as your reports tonight have been showing, this is a really, really serious issue that is not yet solved. You have these two forces at work. One is that an island such as Rhodes, absolutely dependent on the tourism industry. And we are now pretty much at the absolute peak of tourism, the late July into August. This is when everyone in Rhodes would be expecting to make most of their money for the year. So suddenly to say there is no tourism would be very, very expensive. Of course, some islanders have already lost their homes and now others face losing their livelihoods as well. An awful situation for the island to be in. But I'm hearing from a lot of prospective travellers, particularly here in the UK, who are saying, yeah, we really don't want to go there because we are not sure that we want to go straight into a disaster zone. So two strong forces playing out. One is the natural human instinct not to wish to add to the problem by travelling in and concerned about whether the vacation would actually be enjoyable. And at the same time, the dependence that Rhodes and other Greek islands have on the tourist industry.
Well, yeah, Greece relies on it so heavily, but of course the rest of Southern Europe does as well. And so many countries are experiencing extreme heat right now. I mean, should these hotter summers and wildfires become an annual event, do you think we will have to rethink the way we go and travel to these places?
I think that's a really good question. I think there will be a lot of people, perhaps from Northern Europe, and you could just see all the departure points, those flights being evacuating tourists from Rhodes. They're going to Helsinki in Finland. They're going to Norway. They're going to northern Germany, to Sweden, to the UK. These are people who think, great, nothing better than a really hot, sunny Mediterranean holiday. But it might be that next year they think, well, let's go to the Baltic Sea instead. You still get a fair amount of sunshine, but you are not going to be caught up in these awful seas. However, experience tells us that tourists tend to have short memories, and as soon as you have people in the depths of winter in Scandinavia, they will perhaps look at the Mediterranean with fresh eyes and decide that's exactly where I want to be in July.
And they'll be booking that on the 1st of January, the most popular day for people to book holidays. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Pleasure to speak to you as always.